Hello, everybody, and welcome to Code Commit Deploy Repeat. And today, Marina is not here, but we've got a special guest. Hello, Sandu. How are you?
Hello, Peter. So nice to see you. And I'm looking forward to participate here. And hopefully this will be the start of a new collaboration.
Oh, yeah, of course. That would be amazing. So maybe to tell everybody who you are, who hasn't met you before, maybe tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do on the Firebase team, and where you live, and what is your favorite dessert?
All right. So I live in Waterloo. Sometimes you can find me in Toronto. I've been on the Firebase developer relations team for a long time, primarily overseeing the engineering parts of developer support, as well as some of the AI development workflows. If you folks remember Jenki, that one was one of my favorites. And what is my favorite dessert? I would say I enjoy matcha ice cream.
Oh, wow. That's very special. So my favorite ice cream is mango, I think. I've once been to a place where they claimed to have the world's best ice cream, which was in San Gimignano in Italy. And the mango ice cream actually tasted a lot like biting into a mango. So it was, I trusted that when they said, we actually won the world ice cream contest. So, so you mentioned that you worked with Firebase support. So does that mean that when people send questions to Firebase support, that these questions ended on your desk?
Not quite. They end up on our amazing frontline support team, and they take care of that. However, in order for them to be able to do their work, somebody has to make sure that the systems are up and running, and they enable our folks to be productive. So that's been my duty for a while now, and that's primarily the thing. And sometimes we do have to step in, usually when there is something that we haven't thought about before, and we need to go and escalate it to our product team. That's another part of the job.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is maybe a fun fact for people watching to know about. Most questions can be handled by the support team and by the support team agents, but sometimes they have to go back to engineering and get clarification on something that is maybe a new issue, or where they need to get approval for something, and then it usually ends up on our desks, right? So of people around the Firebase developer relations team, and we need to either provide the answers ourselves or find the person who has the answer.
Correct.
Yeah. Nice. All right. So what was the first Firebase product you worked on?
The first Firebase product. I actually remember the first time when I used Firebase, and that's how I started my Firebase journey. I'll start with that, and then I'll switch over to the product. So I started using Firebase during a hackathon. And if you folks remember the Barista Bar app, the Barista Coffee Bar app that I think we had in one of the previous major events, that was based on the one of a hack we built with a few of our colleagues. And we loved it so much that I said, I have to go and work on this team. That was, I believe, 2017.
Wow, that's amazing. So you saw the app at a conference, probably, right?
Well, actually, we had a barista in the office, and we thought it would be cool to be able to order it with all the customizations that we do all the time. Since sometimes the menu gets confusing. So I said, why not? It seems like the Firebase real-time database is the perfect solution for this, because you save it on one screen, and it just pops up on the other screen on its own. So that was how we got engaged with Firebase. And then we used it in a few different spots, including some events. So that was my first encounter. After that, I was on the Firebase console team for a while.
Okay, that's also like a very important part. Without the console, I mean, you could probably use Firebase without the console and just use the CLI, but I think the console makes everything so much nicer.
Yeah, especially before the AI days, it was not always convenient to use the CLI, especially before you knew what exactly you wanted to do, right?
Yeah.
So you just new to the experience, and you're thinking, okay, where do I even start?
Yep.
So the console experience, the web app experience, was a way to guide developers from the moment when they heard about Firebase and to the moment where they actually ship something on it. While now an AI agent can do a lot of these steps on its own using CLI tools or something like Terraform, I believe, or other similar tech. There, at least in 2018, a lot of that was just not possible. And the things that were possible, it was really hard to wrap your head around before you had a full mental picture of what you're dealing with. So for me personally, the console was the primary surface I would interact with Firebase. And over time, as I grew to understand it better, I found myself automating more and doing more from the terminal, doing more from my computer instead of having to go to the web browser.
Yep. That's pretty cool. Okay, so what we wanted to do today is continue working on our productivity app called Make It So. And last time, Marina and I started implementing sharing lists. So basically, being able to say, I have a list of to-dos in my application, but I want to invite other people to collaborate with me on that list and send an invite out to other people, and they can join the list. And then we can collaboratively edit the list, add new items, tick them off, or delete them and edit them, and all the good stuff that you might know from other to-do applications. And we weren't quite able to finish last time, so we thought it would be good to finish the implementation today. Marina is out of the office. She's on a well-deserved vacation, but Sandu said he's happy to come in and finish the implementation with me. So let's do it. I'm going to pull up your screen, and then we can marvel at your amazing background there, and then you can start thinking about what we need to do.
Right.
So I think I basically made you jump into the deep end last week when I said, hey, here's the code. Can you please have a look at that and then figure out what needs to be done? So maybe we can start with that. So how did you figure out what needs to be done to finish this implementation?
Okay, so the first thing I did is download the code and ask my agent to see, can we run it in the emulator? Can we run it in the simulator just to see if things work out? Go through, click a few things, get familiar. To be honest, I've been a web developer primarily. I did some iOS development in the past. However, that was before Swift. That was Objective-C, if you folks remember this thing. It was fun days. So that means I haven't read a lot of the code. I read a little bit of it to familiarize myself, but I haven't really looked at it. So we'll try to see how much we can vibe code without having to look at the code itself, which might be challenging because the code is already written. I'm not sure how much tasks you folks did. So I'm not sure if I can point my agent and say, hey, run this task. We might need to write some of those. But I think there are a few things we can set up to get started. So one is I'll have I will have a Firebase console open with the project database, just in case if I need to jump in manually and take a look at what's going on there, which we'll use later, but here it is. In case we need to pull it, I'll pull it later. And then how I like to work is I like to have two sessions side by side. So one is doing the work, and the other one is where we can do some quick questions, maybe start the simulator, the emulator. So I like to have two of them. So I can have one of them busy working while interacting with the second one and switch back and forth. I think that's a great setup for this type of work. Now, if I remember right, you folks set up anonymous for the app?
We did.
Okay. So that, I guess that gives us some sets up some boundary of how we can share lists. You know what? Before we go and do any changes, I'm going to go ahead and just set the AI agent into planning mode. So this way, it won't go and edit stuff on its own. And if we need, we can switch it back from planning mode to executive mode. I'm just going to ask, hey, something like, right. No, never mind. I'm going to type it in. Let's say something like this. What do we need to share lists with other users, right? So essentially, let's take a look at what's done so far.
Yeah, so last time so after we finished the stream, Marina uploaded a file with the summary, what we did, and that file is called ccdr_episode_4, and that is in the Make It So folder. So potentially the agent will find that as well, or we can point it at it, and then we'll see if that helps.
Yeah. Okay. So let's see. We do have the list. Yeah. So yeah, that's a good place to start to think about sharing, right? We could share a list. We could share a task. But it looks like you folks already have these fields for the list: user ID and shared with. Okay. So let's ask what kind of oath we have. I already know the answer to this, but I want to double check just to see if maybe I'm missing something. All right. So, okay, the project currently supports 3. Okay, so it supports all 3 of them. Did you guys actually configure email password or Google Auth?
So I'm pretty sure that we did not enable Twitter. I would have remembered that.
Yeah, I think that maybe it's been hallucinated. Yeah, I want to see if.
Oh, you know what? I think what might be.
I want to double check. Maybe there is some source code for these, right? Maybe there's something that says Twitter.
So, are you in the root of the repository?
Yeah. Actually, I'm in the root of the repository.
Yeah, so that might be the issue, because that repository contains the sample projects for all our videos. So that is why it does indeed contain code for Twitter. So probably what we should do.
There you go, crash course.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, exactly. Let's go into the Make It So.
Yeah. So and probably you should reset the session, because now it's. Now it's kind of thinking that, we have all this code.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay.
Okay,
right.
so the correct folder should be ccdr/makeitso. And then if we are there, and if we are on the branch called
right?
feature/sharing lists, I think we're good.
So let's see what kind of auth we have in iOS. We are in the Make It So folder, which I believe has both Android and iOS.
It does.
Okay.
It even has backend functionality. So there's a functions folder that does a bunch of stuff as well. So it implemented joining lists, for example.
Okay, so and while it's doing this, okay, so what was the plan? What did we want? How did we want to share it? Should we? Did you folks already decide how you want to share it, or should we do some brainstorming?
Yeah, so
now
we
on the details?
we already talked about that. So I think let's see if it's in the PRD.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good point. Let's go check.
Or maybe it's in the data model.
PRD.
So maybe we didn't update the documentation last time. So because if I, it is. So if you look at datamodel.md, it has a mermaid diagram, and in that diagram, it says we've got a task, and it belongs to a task list, and that task list has a field shared with, and that will include the list of users that the list is shared with. So the general idea is all of the tasks will be stored in a single top-level collection, and all of the task lists will also be a top-level collection, and then we will discriminate based on the user ID.
Okay. All right. So essentially going to be filtering things.
Yep.
Based on user ID. Okay.
Yeah, and I think it already updated the rules, so the rules file is pretty elaborate already.
Yeah. Yeah. So the data model shares, to support sharing, task link entity was expanded with 2 key fields, which we discovered before, but now, the sharing workflow. So this is when the user shares a button, there is a URL with the token. That's our secret, right? Okay, we use Swiss share link for native sharing sheet. So I believe the share link here is in order for us to have a deep link into the app, correct? So when you click the link, you open it. Okay, all right. And Android uses standard action intent with text plain. Okay, deep linking, excellent. Cloud function instead of the client modifying the shared with array directly. That calls a secure. Okay. Did you folks implement the cloud function yet? Or
yep, there is a cloud function, and it joins the lists.
Okay. And we have the security roles updated. Okay. Okay. So looks like probably the next best thing would be to load the app itself and take a look at it.
Yep. So I think, if I remember correctly, one thing that we wanted to implement last time but didn't get around to doing was the email and email and password sign in, because if you sign in just using anonymous auth, then it would be pretty difficult to sign in somewhere else or invite somebody.
Should we implement the email and auth sign in?
I think it's already enabled.
Email and password sign.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah, I believe it might be enabled in the.
Yeah. So, no, it's not. So,
should we go and check it here? I guess we can check it here.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's under security.
Security. There we go. Yeah, I'm still not very used to the refactor. I think it looks really cool.
It does, yeah. It's it makes it so much easier to find what you're looking for.
All right. Okay. I guess we can just go ahead and add this manually. Most of the time, we'll just tell the agent, go and configure it. But probably today, it's faster to just click this and this. So good question. Do we want an email link or email password? I think for the sake of being able to test this quickly, an email and password is simpler, since the email link would require for the agent to have access to an email. That will add another layer of complication. We would have to set up a browser, which is probably not something we want to spend all of day today doing. So I'll just use email password and leave passwordless for another time.
Yep, I agree.
Okay. All right. Think we're done with this. Let's see. Based on the extensive search, no implementation support of email password. Okay. Okay. So how do we want to do it? Okay. I think it should start the app too. And while it's figuring out how to build the app and start it, let's plan for how the implementation should look like for email password.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's see what it suggests. Okay.
So it's looking at the iOS code base first, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, it's looking at the iOS code base. It's looking what packages it needs. I installed a fresh new Xcode environment not long ago because I wanted to kind of have a newly onboarded user experience, and I believe it might need to build things. So let's see what it does. We'll let it cook in the background here while we work on this thing. Actually, you know what? Let's put it like this. I don't want the flicker. I don't want the flicker on the screen. Okay, but I want to know when it finishes. So I'm thinking how to best do it. I think
maybe put it side by side, or
yeah. Thing is, I wish I could put it here. Okay.
maybe
there we go. Okay, at last. I was trying to pull the tab, so it's like this. So I won't see it. I will get a notification when this finishes work, but I won't see all the flicker.
Okay.
It's always a little bit hard when you stream to kind of to get it to fit in the right place. Okay, now are we ready to implement? What does it want? It wants this: enable email password authentication using Firebase OS, provide user interface for signing in, support linking anonymous to preserve data, and allow users to sign out. It makes sense. One thing is already enabled. Yes, I already enabled this. So no need to do that. Everything else looks good. Should we add anything else? I think we should want we probably want a login button somewhere. It doesn't say anything. We have a plus sign a plus task here on the right, and that's where usually the user account thing will be, right? So I wonder if it's you want to tell it. We want to be assertive on how to place this in UI, or just let it figure it out on its own. I think we can let it figure it out on its own, unless you mind about that.
Yeah, let's. I think that's okay.
Okay. Cool. Okay. Now it should switch from planning to execution to coding mode. Yes, automatically, and we're gonna automatically accept edits. These files look reasonable. So authentication service, list, home view, and authentication view. Excellent.
That sounds good. That's probably similar to how I would do it.
All right. Okay, before we go further, let's quickly also test things out. So let's add the new list. Just for sanity. All right. Let's have a new task. Checked. All right. Let's add a task with some data just to make sure everything works. Yeah.
Oh, what happened there?
I think we have it.
Did you literally type the same?
Yeah, I think we found the bug. Yeah, we do find the bug. We did find the bug. We should tell it to fix it. And apparently it only happens. Oh, I see. It only happens when we add new tasks. So it persists correctly, but I guess.
Yeah, so my guess is, so the way how list and Swift UI work is that you need an identifier so that the list implementation can identify which element is which. And if you don't have an ID, or if the ID is nil, then it will just assume that they're the same. I think that is probably the issue here, that when you add a new thing, that the ID is not set yet, because we're probably using the add document ID property wrapper to auto-assign document IDs. So it's something that it should be able to figure out on its own, but we should definitely point it out to it and say, hey, when we're adding new stuff to a list, I see duplicates, and if I navigate back out and back in again, the duplicates are gone, and then it'll be able to figure out what's the problem.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Now, the next question I have, it looks like it finished implementing something. So what I'm wondering is, does the app in the simulator automatically refresh? And I believe not, but
it does not.
I think what it will do, it will refresh it, given my
you need to rerun it.
Yeah. No, the app in simulator does not automatically refresh when you modify the Swiss source code. Okay, so now there is a good time to decide how we want to do this workflow. Do we want to have these features in the future implemented in the same session that started the simulator, then it will know that it needs to auto-refresh it? Or we can auto-refresh it manually. That's why it's so good to have multiple.
So the way how I usually work is I let it implement its thing, and then depending on how I feel, I will tell it to run on the simulator, and then it will use Xcode build and sim control to launch it on the simulator. Or sometimes, especially if you have features that require access to a physical device, for example, if you want to use the camera, then it's better to run it on a real device. And what I'll often do is I'll let it implement, and then once it's finished, I go back into Xcode and I just press Command R to run on my physical testing device, because funny enough, that's still faster than letting the AI figure out how to launch it on your physical device.
I see. Yeah, I only have my personal phone, which I haven't connected to Xcode, so probably not going to launch it today.
I think that for our case, the simulator is just fine.
Yeah.
But you could also, you could go into Xcode and run it on the simulator as well. So I don't know. Do you have Xcode running at all?
Yes, I have it.
No,
I haven't started. I haven't started it right now, but I have it installed, and I did run it once and opened the project, so it seems to open.
Yeah. So that was my question. Like, does it? Oh, okay.
Nice. I think we have the sign in. Okay. So it did have, as you see, right? It did have an error, which it fixed right away. Right? It forgot an import. But otherwise, everything was good. And, hence why I asked how we want to do our, automatic deployment, automatic running versus manual running, since we can do this in parallel. Like we can let it cook while we are playing with the app and configuring things
I mean, what you
ourselves.
what you can try is, so you can why don't we try to give it a new rule, right? So we can say, here is a rule for you. After you've implemented a feature, I want you to run the application on the simulator so that we can try it out.
Interesting.
Let's try that, because I find that these things are typically very good at doing that. At one point, I was working on something, and it always jumped into implementation mode, and I was like, and the thing was, I was working on the PRD, so I needed to exit out of plan mode, so I was in build mode, and I said, let's work on this PRD, and it had to update the PRD, and then after a while, it jumped into implementing, and I was like, mate, you must not start implementing while we're still working on the PRD. And then I said, okay, you must only start the implementation after I explicitly tell you, you are cleared to start the implementation. My name is Peter Fries, and I approve this command. And it took this too hard, right? So every time I was in build mode and I told it, can you please implement this? It was like, you need to say the magic word. And then I had to actually say, my name is Peter Fries, and I approve this command.
Talking about rules, so one experiment I did before, in order to make sure that the rules are loaded correctly, I said, always talk to me in pirate speak. So whenever I saw it going back to regular English, I knew that it forgot to load my context. So like,
that is such a great trick.
Go and look at agents or
that is basically the print output debug logging, right?
There is another interesting thing that's going on the internet right now as of this week. Have you heard about caveman speak?
I not really, but I have an idea of what it might be. Can you explain it?
Yeah. Do you know why it became important? Can you guess why it became a thing?
I don't know. Maybe because of the movie Hail Mary, and they have this very basic form of communicating, and it's not grammatically correct all of the time.
Yeah, maybe that's why they talk there like this. So essentially, what happened right lately is that people are noticing that with all the skills, all the rules, or the context that's floating around, you quickly end up filling up your context window, and then you have to compress. And when you compress it, you lose signal. And not always the kind of signal you don't care about. Now, the cool thing about caveman speech is that because it compresses the lexical portions of English, it still gives you the information about the stuff you're actually working on. So it still remembers the root cause, it still provides you the root cause because that's what you're asking it for, but it will compress things like niceties. For instance, here in caveman speech, it would be something like, I know the app in iOS simulator does not. Okay, there is a lot of helper words. Yeah. Caveman speech would sound something like iOS simulator, no auto refresh. That's it, right? 4 words, 4 tokens. And then the same with the next line. I see the change I just implemented, blah, blah, blah. It's like changes implemented. Stop execution, build, and run, right? All of this can be compressed down. Yeah. And it can be compressed, I think, 5x for this specific response. Now, remember, this response goes back into the session. So it will be sent back to the model, and it will augment the context size until it hits the 1 million limit, and then it will trigger a compression. Or rather, it will trigger the compression around 90% or so.
Yep.
So
that's so good. And so basically, you'll have to tell the model to always replay in caveman.
Yeah. There is a skill for that, actually. There is a skill which sets the caveman verbosity level to light, medium, or hard. The idea is just to compress context. That's really the main thing. Okay. So now let's go back to our question, right? So we were talking about memory and the communication style. Now, Gemini asked me a good question. Where do you want me to save the memory? And it by default thought that I want to have it in my user profile. So .gemini /Gemini MD. But really, there are at least two other places I can think of for this, and we should decide what the most appropriate place. One would be in the agents MD or Gemini MD file inside of the project. The other one would be inside of a skill. Okay. So
I think,
and then there is a user profile.
Yeah, I think for this one here, it's probably worthwhile just doing this for the project or in the session. Allow for this file in all future sessions.
This is just to allow it to edit. But what I can do is say this, save this in the project.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Actually, yeah, I'm not sure why it said escape to, yeah. Anyways, I was not sure why my escape didn't do what I was expecting. I just saw that I hit it repeatedly just to stop it from doing whatever it was, and told it, yeah, just save it in my project. And it created a Gemini file inside of the project. Okay, a file in the root project as neither Gemini MD or Agents MD currently exist. Now, that's a good time to actually stop and think where we want to keep these rules. Depending on how we're using agents, there might be a better or worse place. So Agents MD is the industry standard used that should be understood by most agents out there. Gemini MD is specifically if you want to work with Gemini agents. So Google stuff. Now, you might want to have either of these or both, depending on how you want to steer the agent. For instance, if you notice that an agent has a certain type of behavior while other agents don't, it might be a good reason to create this Gemini.md or the other vendor name.md file. Or you can have agents.md, which will be shared context. I generally tend to put it in agents.md. Because that's what every single agent out there sees it. However, there's no one size fits all, so up to you. Okay, so now we have agents.md. It should now remember that we want these changes automatically previewed. Okay, so what do we do next? Should we go ahead and
yeah, why don't you
sign in?
Why don't you try out to link, to do the account linking?
Okay. All right.
That's really funny because it says, can you provide, it wants you to sign in using an email account and then link it. But we don't have. Oh, do you think it would create one?
I think if I use the sign up thing, it should create one.
Is there a sign up?
And if I use a sign in, yeah.
Oh, you can switch. You can switch.
Sign up, yeah.
You can switch.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, interesting.
Maybe we should ask it to update the UI to make it a little bit more obvious what linking actually does, but
yeah, I think that's okay for now. Let's just give it a try, and then we can think about updating the UI.
Yeah, I'll just use my regular email and
watch out. Okay, so it's actually masking your password.
Yeah. I was thinking about just using 12345 or something. But we can also delete the account. Oh, should we save it? Not now. Okay. It said that it actually created an account. I'm not sure if I'm gonna trust it, so let's go and see. Oh, I do have an account here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it did create your account.
It did create my account, so good job. Okay. So now all we need is for you to create an account and then we'll see how we can share it. So we have this.
But that means I need to get hold of your implementation. So what we could do instead is you could ask it to run the application on an additional simulator, and then you could sign in using a different account. So you could use a test account for that.
Okay, let's run it on Android.
Well, yeah, that would also be a good idea.
Yeah, I hope I don't run out of memory. Like having 2 virtual machines running on this computer side by side, alongside everything else. Let's see. Okay, so while it starts this, we also need to make sure that Android version has the same feature parity. So we'll need to tell it to make sure it has lists, to make sure it has sign in with user and password, and then we can do everything. But that we can do in parallel while we implement the iOS features. So for the Android thing, okay, implement user, email, password, right?
Yeah, and account linking.
Sign in with account linking.
It's interesting that it didn't do it automatically, because when Marina and I worked, it automatically implemented Android and iOS. But at one point, maybe we phrased it in a way that it was led into believing that we wanted it to do that.
Now we let it work in the background. Like, eventually, it's gonna start the app. I think it still needs to build something. Yeah, we'll figure. If it doesn't start in the next 5 minutes, we'll go back to it. But while it does that, let's see. Like let's share this mistyped list. So we do have a share button.
You use that, and then what happens?
Yeah, we do have a link. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So can you copy that, and then let's see how it looks.
Let's see how it looks like.
Oh, interesting. That's probably not very helpful.
Yeah, maybe didn't copy it. I think the problem is that probably the buffer is not shared between the simulator and my computer. I wonder if that's the case here. More.
Oh, yeah.
Oof. Can I want to see it. I want to see the link. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So make it so share web app join and a whole lot of things. Okay.
Yeah, that looks good, because it. You know what's the problem? The copy buffer is broken on the iOS 26.4 simulator.
Oh no! All right, we can figure out to get this data out then. I wonder if we should just tell the AI to solve this problem for us. Like, so we probably also see it here, right, in the database somewhere.
So what we could do is we could tell it, when you tap on the share button, to print it out to the console, and that's where you can grab it. Oh, wait.
Yeah.
You're not running from Xcode.
Yeah, but that's fine. We can tell it to print it to the console and also watch the console for us.
Yeah.
I think that's a reasonable ask for it. Okay. Okay. So what? So we'll need to be quite assertive about this. Right, because otherwise it will probably not do that. So, okay, so I'm clicking the share link button. In the console.
I mean, that relaunching the iOS app, probably you shouldn't have, or wouldn't have.
Yeah, I don't think it necessarily needs to do that, but it will probably need to change the source code. It will probably need to rebuild it.
Yeah, but it would have been interesting to see if it automatically picks up what we told it as a rule.
Should we stop it and tell it not to?
No, let's not waste tokens.
Yeah. Okay, Let's see. Okay, while it cooks it here, let's check our Android app. So I have successfully implemented email password. All right, where is it? Okay. So
and
let's
maybe
just
that
do a
also
quick.
needs to reload.
Yeah. Oof, it's slow. I think. Is my video coming clearly through? Because
Yeah,
it looks like this
so
is a little bit slow.
I can
the
see
emulator
your cursor
for me.
moving smoothly, so that's fine.
Great. Okay. Also, I don't see a list here on Android.
Yeah, so maybe
Let's ask it.
oh,
Did we implement this? If not, or
yeah,
if
so
you're not
we do
sure,
have,
we can
so
tell it.
yeah, so we have lists in the Android version. It even has this master, so this overall view of all the tasks. So it has a list of all tasks, and then it has the individual lists.
I guess somehow I don't see them.
Maybe.
Lists screen. So plural for list screen should be the default one, right? So we want the app to launch using the lists screen. Okay. Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah. First, maybe it's an easy fix, and it can figure it out. If not, we can handhold it later. But I believe maybe there is an app state somewhere which ends up diverting me to these tasks screen.
So I can see it in the source code. There is a lists screen.
All right, what's happening here? I've rebuilt the app, added a print.
Interesting.
It didn't launch the app. I think it just forgot to launch. Did you launch it? It might be also a glitch with the emulator, but
yeah.
let's just ask
So
it to
I'm
launch it.
looking at the code for the Android app. There is a lists screen, and it's also set up in the main activity, so it should show up.
All right.
And it's actually
It is also possible that when I started the app, somehow my local state changed, and now it's not showing it for me. And I think the simplest is just to tell it to go and figure it out. Should probably be a one-line change or something. Let's see, launch caching, if current user not, create anonymous user. What is it doing? Yeah, it does. So open profile unit list screen, if I can. Let's see. I see. So it tries to, to create the profile things.
Yeah, so that looks like there will be a profile button where you can go into your user profile when you are on the list screen. So
yeah, I'm just not on that screen, right? And that's the problem.
Yeah, apparently. So I don't know. Maybe you need to tell it to restart the app.
It just did. So I might need to be more assertive to tell it, like, when you restart the app, make sure the app starts.
Oh, look at that. I have identified and fixed the issue where the app was defaulting to the tasks screen instead of the My Lists on launch. Okay, so now it's restarting in the background. Oh, look at that.
There we go. Now looks better. Okay. One thing, what puzzles me a bit is because I have to click back. I don't have a back button on the screen. I have to remember to click it here.
Yep.
So that's maybe that was what was puzzling me. All right, where is that? Make it so. Okay, did we implement the sign in? I don't see it.
It said something about
sign in button on main screen. I'm just gonna. I will just ask. I'll just ask it because maybe it is there. Oh wait, it is there. Ooh, it's white.
Oh no!
That's
what?
why.
Really?
All right.
That
white on gray, not great. I'm gonna be very passive aggressive, assertive here. But that was the problem. I think it figured it out without me telling it. Did it? Okay, current user. No, it didn't. It just changed something. Yeah. Okay. Oh, it changed the button with sign in word. Okay. There you go. So one thing that makes the models think different from us, right? For models to see the screen as we see it, we have to be assertive to them, saying that you need to take a screenshot and look at it. Otherwise, it looks at the accessibility tree, at the source code. It might not realize that it's a different color. Actually, I like the user icon better. Yeah, I like the user icon better. Yeah, but otherwise, it looks good. Okay, link, email, password, account. Okay, all right. Email, password. All right.
Okay, so now
and sign out.
Yeah. Why don't you? Oh.
Yeah, it restarted to put back the icon.
Okay.
Nice. Yeah.
So yeah, so now you should try signing in as a different user, and then we somehow need to get that link from the iOS simulator.
Yeah. All right.
You can use test at test.com.
Yeah. Let's use a fake one this time. Test.com. Okay. New list.
I can see your account in the console.
Test list. Okay. Oh, there is another bug we should probably fix.
Yeah.
So one thing that I like to do when in these workflows, but we're not gonna do now because it's gonna confuse everybody a bit, is open a whole lot of other sessions / tabs, create work trees in each one of them, and say, go fix this bug, go fix that bug. And then just let another agent merge everything together. We could do this today, but I believe there's gonna be a lot of noise because when those sub-agents finish, the changes will be pulled in, and yeah. But that's a workflow I really like to do, is when I see a bug like this, I say, hey, this needs to be fixed, right? So
so what we can do is, I think Marina is out for another week or two. So you can come on the next time, and then we can do that, because I'd be interested to see how you do that, right? You heard me when you said, I've got another agent working on merging this, and I was like, wow, I need to see this.
All right.
Okay.
I did. Let's see if it gives me the link.
Oh, wow. Wow. What is going on?
It didn't appear. Okay. All right. It's going to be more aggressive now.
So it's writing it to the system log. Wow.
Yeah. Now, an easier solution would be just to run this in a separate console. And we could do that. But I really want to show you how you could do this in a fully automated fashion. The reason why I want to do it like this is because, once you have this workload set up, what you can do is you can have these agents run even when you're away from your computer, like in the cloud.
Yep.
So you can just come, you're on the go, somebody comes with a neat feature. You can just set remote into your computer and say, hey, implement this. And then it will implement it, and you can probably pull the app to your phone and then test it right on the spot. So if you get used to this workflow in which you say, hey, just make sure the agent sees the stuff that's important, you can later scale these to workflow that would otherwise require to be physically in front of the computer and physically typing buttons. So I know it's a little bit overly complicated for our use case, but I believe that's the most scalable solution once we get into these agentic workflows. So let's try one more time, and if not, we'll come something with a different idea. All right.
Yeah. So the easiest way to do it is to run the application from Xcode, because Xcode will just show you the log output in a window.
Oh, did it not see it? Yeah, it didn't. You know what? Maybe I could just open a new task, a new window here, and just run the simulator in there.
Yeah, or do what I suggested. Go into
Xcode.
Xcode and run it from there.
Oof. All right. Well, let's see if the thing if what's faster, starting Xcode or fixing this. I'm gonna do both things in parallel, so I'm starting it on my other screen. Okay. Now let's try. Last chance. Now, the really cool thing about state-of-the-art models is that they're smart enough that you can even joke with them a little bit. And as long as you frame it in a way that's clear what you're asking and what you're just chatting about, they will work, right? Here, there you go, share link.
Oh wow! So it did figure it out. Okay, so now to get this into the Android app.
Okay. All right. Let's just say it like this. Open this deep link in.
Are you doing this in the same window that you were using?
I'm using the second window, right? So
okay,
the first window is iOS.
The
second window is Android.
Yeah. Oh, nice. It seems to do it.
Did it work? I don't know. It did something. Okay, so it did something. Okay, but I'm not sure if I don't think we implemented this feature. It did work. Like it did open the Android. I've sent the deep link to the Android emulator. The app should now process a join request for that list.
So what we could try first is if you just leave the application, go to the launcher screen, and then do it again.
Just me. Yeah, let me just make sure that it's implemented, because I remember doing the sign-in. I don't remember if we actually did the deep link thing. Android.
Yeah. True.
I will read. Yes, it is implemented. Okay. Oh, well. Why? I see no list. Because that's the name of the list.
Yeah, it mentions a couple of missing pieces there.
Yeah, so it doesn't wait for the authentication. Yeah, I think it can figure it on its own, how to fix those. If it doesn't, we'll help it. Again, I don't like hand-holding the model if it can figure it out on its own. And the reason is sometimes the model might have a more appropriate solution for a simple problem.
True.
Based on how the project is already implemented, versus me, who I haven't actually seen the source code. And I will look at the source code if I need to, but I don't think I need to right now. Okay,
so it seems like it added visual feedback and a delay.
Yeah. It also had a number of attempts. I believe that's in order to make sure that it refreshes when it's ready, so it doesn't have a race condition. Yeah. Okay. That might do it. I'm not 100% impressed by this delay 500 refresh 10 times in a row. But half a second is acceptable delay. Yeah, why not? Okay, so I believe right now it's gonna rebuild it and retry it and probably reopen the deep link. Joining list failed. Oh, joining list failed. Maybe we have an auth thing.
Maybe,
Wait.
I don't know if there is a timeout.
401 looks like an auth issue, right? Maybe trying to modify something, it's not allowed.
401 is unauthorized.
And the thing is, we created the list with different user account.
True.
I wonder if that's the
reason. Yeah, the interesting thing is that when we are sharing the list, we don't ask for the invitee's email. And Marina and I discussed this last time, and we said, if you share a list and then send the link to the lists using message or WhatsApp or whatever, then you could accidentally send it to somebody else, or somebody could steal the link, and then they could get access to the list. And we said, well, that is okay for now. And we'll have to look at potential attack vectors later. But
do we have a 5U task? We have a 5U user ID title shared token. I see. So we do have a shared token, which should be sufficient.
Yep.
But I wonder if we're using that in rules. I don't see the shared token here.
But
I believe that might be the issue, because, right, it makes sense to allow people to use a shared token to access a list, because shared token is a secret, right? However, if we don't check for the shared token somehow, then how do we know that the right request is from somebody who received the shared token themselves? So we kind of need to have a security rule in which you can edit something that has a shared token in it in order another user to the same list. So maybe have a shared tokens like a delegate.
So your thinking is, if I invite you to collaborate with me on the list, my app sends you a share token, you hold on to the share token, and every time you want to modify my list, you need to send your share token as well, and the security rules will verify if you are one in the list of the people who this list is shared with, and also if you're holding the share token, right?
Yeah, we don't even need to add the user to the share token list. We could have a security rule saying that if you know the share token, which is the real secret, you are allowed to be added to the list. Or we can just get rid of the share token and use the list ID, which I think is a little bit less secure, because list ID
if we look at the data model says that we wanted to use the shared with attribute to specify who a list is shared with. So what we could do is ask the model, hey, what is the purpose of the share token? And then it would tell us.
Okay, let's do that. But also, if we don't want to specify the shared with beforehand, then we need some other kind of secret. And the shared token can be as a secret, and it can also be a single-use secret as well.
So you know what I think. So maybe let's first ask the model, hey, what's the purpose of the share token, and then I'll tell you what I'm thinking.
Okay. So all right, let's ask it. We are in the iOS thing, let's.
So my thinking is,
shared secret.
So it proves that they were invited. Okay, so when the user clicks on that link, the app calls a cloud function. Oh, that is what the join list function is good for. That is it. Okay, so I thought that the join list function was there to
we don't even need
to
the
merge
function,
lists
though.
when you're doing account linking, but apparently it's not.
But we don't need that. What we can do is we can check if the shared token is presented when writing to the
but
Firestore.
then
And if it's presented, we can allow the user who received the shared token to write their user ID or email into the shared with field. And then we can remove the shared token after that, if we don't want more people to join.
So let's think through that. So I invite you to a list, and in the process of doing that, my application generates a share token. I send the invite link to you. Your application picks out the share token, and then it says, let me add Sandu's user ID as a shared with field into Peter's list, and here is the share token. The security rule says Sandu may only write into that document, into that list document, if he presents the correct share token.
Correct.
Yeah, so that would allow us to implement this feature without having a backend function.
Yeah, we don't even have to tell that we shared it with Sandu. We can just say we shared it with somebody who should present the shared token when they try to write their name inside the Firestore.
Yeah, their user ID. Yep.
Yeah, their user ID. So they can only write their user ID, but they also have to present the token.
Yeah.
Because when you write, you can overwrite the field, and if it's the same value, it won't change. But we can check that the value presented is identical to the value in the database. So this way, we know they have the shared token.
But here's the thing. What happens if I invite many people at once?
Do we want to have multiple shared tokens? That's the question.
Yeah, I mean that is the question, right? So I invite you and Marina. So and that means that I create so let's say my app creates a shared token.
I have a solution.
To you. Yep.
I have a solution for that. So if the shared token already exists and you don't mind me and Marina sharing it,
yep,
we just have to make one small change in the persistence schema, which is make the list of shared with you a list of UIDs instead of a single value UID. And we can still have one single shared token. Now, any of us will be able to revoke the shared token if we decide that anybody should revoke it, or we can make sure that you are the only one who can revoke the shared token when you write it. We will have to update a few security rules, but this should be scalable.
Okay, so why don't we ask the model what it thinks about that? I have mild concerns about sharing the shared token for multiple invites, but let's see.
Okay, let's go into plan mode just to make sure we don't overly eagerly implement anything here.
Okay, so the general idea is let's use security rules instead of a cloud function.
Rules only.
No cloud functions, yeah.
Yeah.
For managing the sharing feature.
Yeah. Has the token?
They can add themselves.
Yeah, they can. And themselves only. We probably don't want them to add any other people.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do this. Any questions?
Yep, that is a good way. Yeah, I was about to say we should tell the model to ask us any clarifying questions and figure out if there is anything ambiguous. Okay.
It should do that anyways in plan mode, but if we are telling it that you should ask questions, it will be more careful about not making assumptions.
Yep.
Okay. Read access prior to joining. Currently, user cannot read the list unless they're already the owner. They click join link, they won't even have to see the list title, grocery list before they join. If that desired, private first behave, or should they be allowed to get rid the list if they know the token? I think they should be able to read the list. I mean, if they have the token, they can add themselves. So
okay,
they
so
should
what,
definitely be able.
let's see what it proposes. So we would add an update rule to the list that allows the change if the request auth UID is being added to the shared with array, and the shared token provider is in the request matches the one in the document. No other fields are being changed. Yeah, so that works if I only invite one person at a time. But what happens if I want to invite more people, right, at the same time or quickly in quick succession, right? So I invite you, and then 5 minutes later, I'm like, oh, I should have invited Marina as well. So I'll send her an invite. And in the current implementation, I think the application would just generate a new invite token and overwrite the old one.
Okay, array union. Does array union make sure the change is atomic?
I mean, we should probably have a list of invite tokens in the document, right? So,
yeah, because I think about another solution.
So, following your advice of not babysitting the model, shouldn't we rather say, hey, what happens if I want to invite more than one person?
Yeah. This is a little bit sloppy. Whenever I see things like exaggeration, like critical security, I think we're pushing the model a little bit hard. Okay, so to make sure this is truly secure, hide the token might be excluded from general read rule so that the random parent can't just get the document. Yeah, okay. So the reading thing is tricky then, because we can't let it read unless it provides. We shouldn't let it read unless it provides a token. But if it doesn't, but we have no way to know if it provides a token. So maybe we're not gonna let it read. We will let it write only. Okay, that's a good observation. Blind join. The user attempts an update with the token. They go if the token is correct, the update succeeds, they're added to shared with, and then you can read. I like this. I like the blind join. I mean, they can join, and if they don't like what they see, they can just leave. We can implement the feature later, remove themselves from the join list. Okay, and the other question I had is, and that was kind of your question as well, related to your question as well, is what happens when multiple people join, and what is array union really good for this? It can handle at the same time each user sends a request, add my UID. Okay, so it says it's atomic.
Okay. Yeah.
It says it's atomic. Should we believe the model, or should we check docs?
I think I believe it.
Okay. In a temporary field, join token as part of the update. Yes. Yeah. Handshake field. Yeah, correct. Like that's exactly how I would have done it. Have this handshake field in a field that's temporary, which won't really be persisted anywhere, or if it persisted, nobody really cares about it. So allow read, right, for the list ID, if and only if the user is already here, right? Cool. Now allow update in multiple instances with multiple conditions, right? If it's not null, the join token is shared token. Shared with has all, might be preserved, has all, very good. And the size is +1. And UID is shared with. Okay, I think that's a comprehensive rule that covers all use cases, right? So if all the users that exist are there, and the size is +1, the only user that doesn't exist will be the one that's added in here. The only other solution, the only other case is when the model wants to add an existing user twice. but union will not change in this case, so there's no damage. The union function will not change the field value, so there's no damage. There's no way to abuse it. And request data user ID equals this ID equals data user. Okay.
Oh yeah, that's also a good idea. Yeah.
And the title.
And the title.
Should we let people?
Yeah, because otherwise you could steal the list or you could rename it, right? So that is a general idea.
Okay. Other than the title and the user ID, are there any other fields that can be updated?
Let me quickly have a look at the how our list looks like.
Because
we only have
add
title
another
and user.
request.
Yeah.
We could add another request.
So we are almost at the end of the stream because I need to run to the next meeting at 1:30. So how about we jump into implementation mode and see how much of that it can do in the next 10 minutes.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. So I think it's good. We'll just have to update the security rules to match this.
But it will do that automatically because we've got the Firebase skill installed.
I have to double check that I have my CLI.
It should be in the folder.
Yeah, let's see if we have. All right, I have Firebase. Log.
Or maybe not.
I'm gonna make sure I'm logged in with the correct account.
Oh yeah, so we've got.
I have to double check where the browser opened, because maybe the browser opened in a different place and I just don't see it.
Okay, I'm looking into the skills folder, so it seems like we've got skills installed only for iOS, but not for Android.
Yeah, I think it's not opening the browser correctly. Looks like I need to reinstall the Firebase CLI. For some reason, it's out of sync for me. You know what? I'm gonna just tell it to print the rules that I have to update manually.
Okay.
And I'll just copy paste them over.
You're still in plan mode.
It will ask me if I want to go to implementation mode right away. Oh, shoot. It's still writing it like this.
But what happens if you copy that? Will it copy the lines?
It will copy the lines, yeah. And that shouldn't be a big issue, but I don't want to deal with it. Yeah, definitely a good thing to do a feature request. Yes. No, I'm gonna tell it, just
let's wait.
Just put in the rules files. And I'm gonna copy it by hand.
Oh yeah,
I don't want to deal with removing all these white spaces.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, we probably need to do the same for Android also. So both Android and iOS. Accept edits. Plan approved. All right. Good. Okay, so let's.
So you need to update the rules in the backend and then launch the apps.
Where is that rules file? I think it should be.
I think it should be probably in the root somewhere. Yeah, it's in the root. It's in ccdr/make it so, and then there's
it should be. Yeah, we are one level up. Okay. Oh. Firebase Firestore rules. Excellent. Okay, we have a whole lot. I guess I'll just copy paste this section because the rest of it shouldn't have changed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
At least,
yeah, it's a bit of a hacky workflow, but it gets the work done.
Yeah, we should
I successfully migrated
the
rules only sharing model.
The Firebase extension next time.
Same for Android. Let's make. I don't love that I'm asking you to make Android changes in this session instead of the second one, but I don't want to have to pull all the context over.
Yep, makes sense.
Okay, so we have the sharing link. And I believe in a few minutes, well, maybe 1 minute, it should be done. And then Bidon installs Android app using install debug. All right. Oh, well. What it was doing here, I will check the current time on Android emulator to ensure to synchronize the time mismatch could cause authentication tokens to be rejected. I thought authentication worked. Okay, we'll figure that later.
So it sounds like it included a timestamp into the shared token, right?
Mm-hmm. I think, yeah, I think it remembers that sometimes URLs that it saw before might not work as you expect.
Yep.
If you open them multiple times. I assume that's what it's worried about. I don't think that's our use case because our issue was before that. I just didn't notice. You see the little hand here? It means it's waiting for me to approve it, and I didn't notice it, right? So because that's why I like to keep them side by side, so I see this stuff when it's waiting on me. But I didn't notice it, so yeah, it's fine. We'll go back to that if we need to. Now we have sharing. Sharing should be working on iOS, like end to end. So we're just waiting for the implementation on Android to catch up, and after that, we'll test the workflow engine.
I'm excited.
All right. I'm gonna do this here like this. Try now. So I'm gonna tell the second session that we did some changes somewhere else. So now it will use the context it already has about what was broken.
So you're basically playing the agent manager here.
Yeah. All right. It did show something. I don't see the list though, but it did show a different thing than before. So I think we're gonna wait. Join list error. I think we're gonna let it stabilize, and I believe that should work. What did it do? Oh, it didn't do any changes. It just rebooted the app. I'm not sure if it rebuilt it because it might need to rebuild it. No. Yeah, I don't want to wait until it finishes thinking. I did trigger it, right? We saw the pop over here, the tooltip here on the bottom. So it triggered something. I'm just not sure if they trigger the newest version or not.
But something, so, okay.
Because I don't remember seeing it rebuilded. And I don't remember seeing this rebuild. I will build error permission denied, missing or insufficient permissions. Okay.
Oh, it's trying to call the backend function.
Okay, maybe, yeah. Okay, let's, is it?
It said something about calling the join list function.
Yeah, it shouldn't anymore. And let's tell it to update the implementation docs. Because we didn't do that. Let's do it. I'm gonna just start a new session. Rebuild app and open. Okay. Do we know where the link was, so I don't have to ask it again?
I don't know.
Okay, I think it was right after this change. There you go. I decided to kill that session because it was thinking a little bit too long and it was getting confused by the old implementation.
Yeah.
And now we should have the docs up to date with the new implementation. So I think it's better just to tell it to start new instead of trying to figure out what was wrong with the previous, what went adrift. I think a lot of times one thing that's different in agentic development versus traditional development. Traditional development, you have to be really patient.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, like the stuff that we did today, that was, it would have taken a lot longer in traditional development. I agree.
While with agentic stuff, ooh, it didn't open the link. It tried to open in Chrome. Chrome.
Okay, so let's give it one more try, and then I think we'll have to wrap it up because I really need to jump to the next one. So it sounds like we have something that we'll have to revisit on the next stream. Insufficient permissions. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, one more try.
Now, you see, the cool thing is it now is looking at Firestore role, so it will pick up the changes we made. And if there's anything it needs to update, it will do that right now. And that's why I really like to start things new, is because I don't know what it has in the context. It might have a very opinionated view about how things used to work before. It's just better when you do a big change to start a new session. Hence why skills and rules are so important. So you don't have to provide all the context every time when you start a new session.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we are at time. Let's see if this is the magical moment, or if we continue this doing next time.
That would be amazing.
Literally 5 minutes. There are literally 5 minutes we need to, at most, to get this to work.
All right.
Okay.
Wow. So it needs to do some digging here.
Yeah. Let's set it to timer. Okay. There we go. Timer. We'll give it too much. 1 minute. Start. Should I tell the model that it has 30 seconds to fix this? Let's not distract it.
Don't make it more nervous.
Oh, a lot of changes. 3 files already. Don't use the Firebase command line.
Okay. I think
all right, we're done.
At time. Okay, so we will fix this next time. And next time is, according to my calendar, is April 21st. I don't know if you're available, would be great. And then we can look at fixing this. And it's more complicated than we thought in the beginning, but why not? And then we can also look into all of the other things that we discovered today. So with that, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Thanks for coming on to the stream, Sandu. It was good fun. I really enjoyed it. And with that, I will bid everybody farewell and enjoy the rest of your day wherever you've joined us. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.